What if I told you that the human body, in its architecture of flesh and blood, contains switches invisible to other states of consciousness? What if one of those switches was right behind your ear, waiting to be activated by a light touch of 2 fingers? This is not public knowledge. It is a practice that has remained hidden, quietly whispered, practiced by healers, monks, and sages who understood something that modern science is only beginning to understand. The body is not just biological. It's an energy map that responds to sacred touch. Today I'm going to share one of those keys with you: mastoid stimulation. This delicate spot behind the ear, once kissed like the ear of a sleeping child, is a gesture, albeit subtle, which activates a deeply restorative neurosensory circuit, the deep rest circuit, the portal that opens the way to inner calm, where the soul rests and the body regenerates. Perhaps you've already felt it without even realizing it. Being in the arms of a loved one, feeling a gentle caress behind your ear as if by chance, and suddenly an inexplicable peace fills you. It wasn't just a tendency. It was a memory from their ancestors, a reaction coded into their nervous system. Because this point is essential, and it doesn't just unlock sleep. It's the sacred peace of the soul. In this video, we delve deeper into this forgotten practice. We discover its spiritual roots and its connection to the parasympathetic nervous system, and its importance in the art of energetic nutrition. We will also explore how this gesture, performed intentionally, can function as a ritual of reconnection with oneself, an act of physical compassion that heals not only from the outside, but also from the deepest part of one's being. You'll discover how ancient cultures understood the relationship between touch and consciousness, between the skin and the mind, and how this seemingly insignificant area was considered by some to be the place where the gods whispered. Because it's not just about the game, it's also about how you play, and most importantly, where you play from. The body responds to the soul, and when the soul opens to you with devotion, even the smallest gesture can become an act of enlightenment. So if you've ever felt like you can't find peace, that the world doesn't fall apart even if you close your eyes, perhaps it's time to learn what the wise knew, that there is a threshold behind the ear, that touching it with reverence is opening the door to the inner temple, and that true peace cannot be forced. The call is coming. Prepare yourself. This knowledge is not just information, it's a tool. And if you use it consciously, you'll find that the calm you seek is always within your reach. Since the dawn of humanity, we have intuitively understood that the body is much more than a biological instrument. Ancient cultures viewed the body not as a machine, but as a living temple, where each area was sacred and connected to energies, emotions, and invisible forces that we are only beginning to explore today. Among these mysterious areas is the region behind the ear, anatomically known as the mastoid region, which many sages considered a point of regulation of the soul. In Eastern traditions such as Taoism and some branches of Tantric Buddhism, the sleeping petal has been described as a poetic metaphor for a point of calm and stability, capable of inducing altered states of consciousness through compassionate touch. This point was considered a bridge between the sensory and spiritual worlds, between the brilliance of the mind and the stillness of being. In India, yogis recognize the importance of this region in the practice of pratyahara, the practice of sensory withdrawal. Some ancient texts mention that slowly stroking this area, just before entering meditation or deep sleep, helped to distance consciousness from the gates of the world. In other words, it facilitated the transition between the waking state and the subtle worlds, preparing the body for rest and consciousness for expansion. Even in the shamanic cultures of South America, some healers applied gentle pressure behind the ear to release the echoes of the day and soothe accumulated thoughts and tensions that prevented deep rest. The touch was performed with 2 joined fingers, as if touching a flower, only touching the surface and allowing the soul to return home. Philosophically speaking, this point represents much more than a simple gateway to dreams. It symbolizes the sacred fragility of humanity. Sensitivity, listening, balance, and openness to the world converge in this small space. It is no coincidence that it is so close to the ear, an organ considered in many traditions to be the most spiritual of all the senses, as it requires no action, only presence. The ear receives, listens, and receives. The mastoid process thus functions as a sensitive bridge between the physical and emotional bodies. It's a threshold, a vortex that, when consciously touched, sends a signal to the nervous system. We can let go, trust, and rest. No wonder some sages have called it the button of divine tranquility. For there, between the skin and the bones, lies a door that opens not by force, but by desire. To understand this, we must remember what the modern world has forgotten. Deep rest comes not only from fatigue, but also from trust, and for true rest, it is not enough to close our eyes. We must open our hearts. Now that we have understood the ancient and symbolic meaning of the point behind the ear, it is time to explore its more concrete and functional dimensions without abandoning its mystical reputation. At the intersection of the physical and the subtle, the neurological and the spiritual, lies the vagus nerve, one of the most powerful yet forgotten structures in the human body. The vagus nerve, whose name comes from the Latin vagus, meaning to wander, is the 10th cranial nerve. But it is not a simple biological nerve. Rather, it's an invisible highway, a conduit connecting the brain to nearly every internal organ: heart, lungs, glutes, stomach, and intestines. But more importantly, it regulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for activating rest, digest, and heal responses. In other words, the vagus nerve is like a giant switch that turns off sleep mode and plunges us into a state of physical and mental calm. And therein lies the secret. One of the most accessible branches of the vagus nerve runs just behind the ear, in the region of the mastoid process, very close to the auricle. This means that a gentle, conscious, and slow touch to this point, as if waking a sleeping petal, directly stimulates this deeply rested circuit. This is not magic in the poetic sense of the word. It's a biological truth, profoundly esoteric in its simplicity. The body doesn't just listen, it reacts, and this point, so often overlooked by conventional medicine, holds the secret to one of its greatest virtues, the ability to silence internal noise. Imagine your nervous system as a garden. During the day, thoughts are like the rustling of birds in the branches, emotions like the wind in the leaves. But when you reverently stimulate this point, it's as if a warm breeze is blowing through the garden, and the birds and leaves are soothing you. The empty brain sends a clear message: we are safe, you can stop fighting. Many modern illnesses, anxiety, insomnia, chronic fatigue, irritability, result from a malfunction of the nervous system. We are constantly on alert, as if there were always something to fear. However, when we consciously touch the mastoid region, we activate the parasympathetic response. It's like putting out a fire with a whisper. It's no longer just about touching. What makes the difference is the intention, the slowness, and the quality of the gesture. Stimulation of this point should be performed with 2 fingers, the index and middle fingers, slightly apart, as if to form a flower. The touch should be rhythmic, almost maternal, like the embrace of a sleeping child. At this moment, not only the child's body is touched, but also their energy field, thus reminding them of the system. We are not alone. We find peace. This gesture provokes more than just a physical reaction. It awakens latent memories of primal security. Reconnect with a code deeply rooted in our DNA. The code of slowness, protection, and voluntary surrender. No need for drugs or complicated rituals. You just have to be present and feel good. The body is wise, but you have to invite it, not force it. And the door, one of the most important, is right there behind the ear, where true silence begins. Consciously touching the mastoid process is not a technical act, but a ritual. It combines the physical, the energetic, and the symbolic in a dance of profound reconnection. Unlike the application of targeted pressure, as in acupressure or certain massages, the important thing here is not the intensity, but the devotion of the touch. By forming a petal with 2 fingers, the index and middle fingers, we don't just stimulate a sensory region. We recreate an archaic language, a lost code between the skin and the soul. It's the same gesture a mother instinctively makes when she wants to calm her child without words, as if her own energy, filtered through her fingertips, could tell her everything is fine. And the body truly understands this message, because biology and the mind are inseparable. The skin remembers. The nervous system preserves the traces of our deepest and most subtle experiences. The body doesn't need persuasion. It just needs to connect with the truth. By performing this exercise before bed, we not only calm the nervous system, but also create a ritual bridge between the end of the day and the beginning of the dream world. By connecting to this point, to the rhythm of relief and awareness of the present moment, we don't just relax. We are entering a sacred space, the space between day and night, between the outside and the inside, between the conscious and the invisible. In many mystical traditions, this threshold, the moment before sleep, was considered one of the most auspicious moments for inner transformation. It was the ideal time to sow sacred thoughts, disconnect from the noise of the world, and surrender to the mystery of tranquility. As one surrenders to the cosmic ocean, it was believed that gently activating this point opened the channel. Ancient Tibetan and Taoist medical texts refer to it as the ear of the soul. According to some legends, if one learns to soothe this area with devotion, one can hear the voice of silence, that inner melody that comes not from outside, but from deep within. Some masters said that the wise do not sleep to escape the world, but to listen to what is said in silence. Moreover, the ritual activation of this area not only promotes rest, but also has cumulative effects. Repeated night after night, the body associates this gesture with a sign of voluntary surrender. The mind then relaxes more quickly, the heart rate slows, and the soul prepares for flight. One could say that this sacred touch acts as a luminous anchor, a physical reminder that we are not alone in the night, that there is an invisible network that supports us when we choose to let go. Touching behind the ear as one would a sleeping child is a way of telling oneself that it is okay to let one's guard down. And this gesture, however small, appears revolutionary in a world where constant tension reigns. Thus, a simple embrace becomes an act of spiritual power, a password, a code, an intimate ceremony between you and your living temple. The body does not need to be conquered. It is enough to remember it. And when that happens, rest ceases to be a desire. It becomes a living reality, born of the soul. We live in a culture that glorifies speed, rewards exhaustion, and disguises fatigue as achievement. Sleeping well has become a rare privilege, and deep rest is a distant fantasy for millions of people. But what we forget, and what ancient traditions have deeply ingrained in us, is that rest is not the end of the journey. It is part of the sacred path. Rest is not laziness. It is physiological wisdom. Rest is not emptiness. It is the fertile soil where the invisible seeds of our transformation germinate. Therefore, the art of devotional tapping of the mastoid region should not be considered a simple relaxation trick. It is a spiritual practice of energetic well-being, a tool that, when integrated into your nighttime routine, can profoundly change your daily life. Here are some tips for consciously integrating this sacred wisdom into your daily life. 1. Create a sacred nighttime ritual. Before bed, turn off bright lights, mute devices, and place a lit candle by your bed. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and place your index and middle fingers behind one ear, above the mastoid process. Gently hug yourself in circular or linear motions, as if you were blowing a breeze across your skin. Do this for 1 minute, then switch sides. This gesture is a clear signal to your body. The temple darkens, the soul withdraws. 2. Accompany it with an intention or a sacred word. The mind and body respond powerfully to words. During this caress, mentally repeat phrases such as "I am at peace," "I can let go," or "the universe carries me." This connection reinforces the power of the exercise and connects the physical to the vibration. 3. Don't rush. This is not a massage. It's a language. Interpreted quickly or without presence, it has no effect. Think of it as a moment of dialogue with yourself, like touching the shore of a calm lake at dusk. 4. Use this technique during times of anxiety. Ideal before bed, it can also be used during the day. When you feel a moment of anxiety, tension, or mental hyperactivity, simply pause, breathe, and gently touch yourself. It's a way to come back to yourself without running away. 5. Share it with your loved ones. This knowledge isn't just for you. If you have children, a partner, or loved ones, you can offer them this touch before bed as a sign of love. It affects their nervous system, but also their vibrational field. Without words, you tell them they can surrender to rest. I've been with you since the light came on. Remember, The way we sleep reflects our trust. And trust is an art that develops through small, slow, and profound gestures. Touch this point every night, not as a mechanical act, but as a living key to your own peace. Behind your ear, precisely where the skin is thin and the pulse of the world subsides, is a door. Not a physical door made of grass and padlocks, but an energetic opening. A silent threshold that opens only when approached with devotion. During this journey, we realize that this point, known in anatomy as the mastoid region, is much more than just a region of the body. It is an antenna of the soul, a neural nest where the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, and the human energy field converge to remind us of something essential. Rest is not a biological function. It is a sacred act. When we touch this place with the softness of a petal, when we wrap our fingers around it as if to comfort a sleeping child, we invoke ancestral wisdom. This is not a gimmick. This is not a passing fad. It's the body's forgotten language, responding to the invisible and recognizing perseverance as a cure. In a world saturated with screens, mental noise, and endless lists that can't fit into a single day, this practice becomes an act of luminous rebellion. Sleeping well is no longer just a necessity. It's a spiritual right, and by consciously claiming it, we remind ourselves that a part of ourselves, intact, wise, and deep, is safe from modern stress. This part is waiting for you every night, just behind your ear. This small gesture, repeated consciously, can transform your connection to rest, to your body, and even to your soul. For what is being touched is not just your skin, but your emotional memory, the map of your ancestors, where your mind hides its deepest secrets. Therein lies the symbol of who you were, who you are, and what you can become when you allow yourself true rest. So the next time you close your eyes, seek not just sleep, but surrender. Seek not just separation, but a return to yourself. And when your fingers touch that sensitive spot, do so like a priest drawing back the veil of the sanctuary. For what lies beneath this caress is sacred. Touch with intention, breathe with presence, and let the silence whisper its wisdom to you. And if this knowledge has awakened something within you, if you feel that this ancient secret deserves to be shared with more souls seeking peace, like this video, share it with all those who need this peace, and subscribe to this channel, where we reveal new keys to you every week, to your deepest spiritual dimension. Because remember, some doors only open from the inside, and sometimes it all starts with a gentle caress behind the ear.